Hello and welcome back to the NAS Metal Productions channel here at YouTube. Welcome to another album of the week. This, of course, is episode number 35. And so, for episode 35, I am spotlighting another album that was released back in 1979. However, this album was released in April of 1979. However, from both Wikipedia and Discogs, they don't give out a specific day that this was released in April, just the month, which makes it hard, especially even when it came to doing some of these anniversary albums, because I always like to place the date and release some already at least close to that date, or even on that date, or even at least a little after that date. However, with this sound, I can't, so I guess it just makes it perfect for actually just doing it at least here in the end of May. So, and also, I was absent throughout April anyways, and if you want to know why, you always can go back and check out my collection update videos, being number 20 and number 21, and of course my review for Anvil's tour, the US tour, Pounding the Pavement tour 2019. Check out that concert review. So, that was a bit of a tough one to spit out. So, getting right to it. Blackfoot Strikes is the album that we are spotlighting today. Of course, Strikes being their third album. The very first album was 1975's No Reservations, which I don't have in my collection. And the reason is, it's not a very easy album to obtain. And not because of you can find it very easily, but more so how much or how the price that people want for this. And every time I do see this out in the wild, people want at least $24 to $25 for a copy, and I'm just not willing to pay it. I've heard the album online, and it's a solid Southern rock album, but I don't know if I want to pay $25 for it. So that's why. So, and of course, their second album being Flying High, released in 1976, and was their first album to be released on a major label, which of course was Epic, but it would be their last album released on a major, at least on Epic Records, because here, Strikes, their third album, is the first one to be released through Atco Records, which was a sub-label of Atlantic Records. So, there you go. Now, of course, we can go into the little bit of the backstory. Blackfoot was formed by Ricky Medlock and Greg T. Walker, which of course was formed back in 1969 under the original name of Fresh Garbage, before changing their name to Blackfoot in 1972, and since then they've stuck with this name. So, now we got all that out of the way, let's definitely get into the album. Strikes is pretty much nothing more than 100% bluesy southern hard rock. And yes, this is definitely close to being more hard rock in places, especially with the opening song here, Road Fever, which is a great way to open up an album. And of course, other rocker on here being Train, and of course, even the more pretty much closest thing that they got to a song like Freebird being Highway Song. And of course, it's also take a little minute to also, or at least a second here, to also kind of give out the little tidbit that Ricky Medlock at one point had a little stint in Lynyrd Skynyrd. And that, of course, was on the very last album for Ronnie Van Zant. That, of course, was Street Survivors. And we all know what happened there. But that was that early stint. Of course, these days, Ricky Medlock does play in Lynyrd Skynyrd anyways these days, but his early stint was on Street Survivors. But after that, he pretty much was more devoted to Blackfoot, this band right here, and definitely rightfully so. Now, also other tidbits about this sound. There's about 3 cover songs on this album. One being I Got a Line on You, which was a Spirit song, Pay My Dues, which was a Blues Image song, and of course Wishing Well, which was a Free song. This is not the first time I'm actually spotlighting or even a band that actually covered this song. If you go back to 2016, I actually had reviewed Savage's Fight for the Rock, which had featured a cover of Freeze Wishing Well, and it wasn't really that great of a cover anyways. But Blackfoot here, they do a great version of this track, so definitely all good. So there you go. There's at least 3 cover tracks there, and again, other songs I also like off of this one being Left Turn on a Red Light, Baby Blue, Run and Hide are all their good songs. But of course, some of my personal favorites being Road Fever, their cover of Wishing Well, and Pay My Dues, and of course Train and Highway Song are definitely some of my favorites off of here. So again, all just good southern rock right here. Also, another little tidbit about this album is that this is also a practically short album. This album clocks in around 33 and 41 minutes. So definitely not a very long album. And also, let's also give out a little tidbit here that the producer of this album is Al Nally. Now, Al Nally also would go on to produce another Florida band, which of course, though, Blackfoot were originally, at least these both were originally from New York, but relocated to Florida. But back to, of course, producer Al Nally would produce another Florida band, that being Axe. One of the albums being, of course, Offering, released in 1982, and of course, 1983's Nemesis, which was definitely one of the last sounds for Axe for a long time. But there you go, there's a little tidbit about Al Nally there. And again, he does give the band a pretty sort of slick kind of sound, but even though it's still got a very still hard driving sound still to it, especially on the upcoming albums after this one, which I'll definitely spotlight at a time being, of course, Tom Catton and Marauder. And I'll definitely spotlight one of those albums as well later on. And of course, also even producing over Siogo. Also keeping on some little tidbits, this of course has a track, or at least a contribution from, of course, Ricky Medlock's grandfather, that being the late Shorty Medlock, who of course contributes the harmonica on, of course, the Train Prelude track, which of course serves as an intro to the song Train. Now, this is not the very first time that Shorty Medlock has contributed to a Blackfoot album. His contributions goes back to the very first album, which of course was 1975's debut, No Reservations, up until Marauder, which was the last album because Shorty Medlock would pass away in 1982. So that is at least as close right there. Anyways, again, great, just some great stuff on this album. Pretty much definitely a classic Southern rock album. And of course, since, again, it's 2019, it's past April, this, of course, is an album that's pretty much, 40 years old. So, again, another 40-year-old album. So there we go. I guess that pretty much ends it out there because there really isn't any much else to say other than this was just a solid Southern rock album from, of course, Blackfoot. Also bring up other members that are no longer alive. That's, of course, is the drummer here, which is Jackson Thunderfoot Spires, who, of course, had passed away back in May 16th of 2005. So, may you rest in peace. So there we go. Again, always something that it's interesting to spotlight albums that isn't completely metal, because of while this channel is pretty much called the Nasty Metal Productions channel, once in a while I like to also spotlight albums that aren't completely, because it kind of gives, again, another insight into my musical tastes. And this is definitely a good album, of course, when it comes to it. It definitely has some good hard rock songs on here. Definitely, though, on the southern rock side of things, it's still great. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed. Definitely give out your comments in the comment section below. This is Every Thrash Sam out. I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.